Hello there, and welcome back for solar system terms. I'm on page 25 of your work text and on page 61 of the textbook. So if you're following along in the text, it's going to be pages 61 to 64. Okay, the first term here is a tough one to pronounce, so let me go ahead and give you the sound spelling for this one. It is Heliocentric. 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 This is a Greek term. Helio is Greek. And this is the theory that all objects in our solar system revolve around the sun. And I want to tell you a little story here. Well, many years ago, people believed that the earth was standing still and that the sun was moving around the earth. Because every morning what happens? The sun comes up and every evening the sun goes down. Every day that happens. So in their minds, it must mean that the sun is moving around the earth, that the earth was the center of everything. And a man named Nicholas Copernicus in the early 16th century said, "You guys have it wrong. The sun is not moving around the earth is moving around the sun." And a lot of people hated Copernicus. They thought he was a heretic and that he should be killed because he was teaching something that they did not believe to be the truth. So it took a long time for people to understand that Copernicus was right and that in fact the earth is just a grain of sand in the great big universe, that it's not the center of everything. It's just a very small piece of a very small piece of a very small piece of the universe. So Copernicus was the first to say that the earth is moving around the sun. And that is a heliocentric solar system. A lunar eclipse. I want to go ahead and make I think we might have already done this, but lunar is a morpheme. Let's be sure that we have lunar on the morphemes page. Yes, lunar is moon. Okay, so let's go back here to the lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse occurs when the moon passes through Earth's shadow. And I drew a picture for you. I do want to go ahead and add some color to this picture because I want you to understand something very important. Of these three, the sun, earth, and moon, only the sun is shining. The sun is a star, it's burning, and that's why it has light. So the sun is sending out rays, okay, always while it's burning. So what's going to happen when the moon passes through Earth's shadow? What's happening in this picture to the moon? Well, no light is reaching the moon because the Earth is in the way. The Earth's shadow is casting on the moon. So this is a diagram of a lunar eclipse. Okay, the next term is penumbra. Penumbra. And it looks tough, but it's really what it looks like. It's pronounced bra. Penumbra. And a penumbra is a shadow that is cast. Oops. During a solar eclipse. Okay, the next one is phase. And phase is the way the moon appears to an observer on Earth. So if I walk outside tonight and I look for the moon, depending on the phase that the moon is in, it will look different each night. And here are the 4 major phases of the moon. A new moon, that's this one, is completely dark. So if I go outside and there is no moon at all, it doesn't mean that the moon is gone. It just means I can't see it. That's a new moon. If you go outside and you see a full moon, that means that the moon looks like that, but not because it's burning. It's reflecting sunlight, but that is a full moon. A first quarter moon is a moon that is getting bigger. A third quarter moon is getting smaller. And let me tell you the meanings of these words. Waning is getting smaller. Waxing is getting bigger. And I figured out that I could tell the difference by looking at the light part. So in this particular one, do you see how there is the letter D? The yellow part makes the letter D. In this one, it makes the letter C. If you're seeing a yellow C, that's a waning moon. It's getting smaller. If you're seeing a yellow D, it is getting bigger. So it's on its waxing cycle. All of this takes 1 month. So the moon phases go through a 1 month cycle. That's where our months come from. So every month the moon will go through, generally every 28 days, the moon will go through 1 full cycle of phases. Okay, a solar eclipse is the passing of the moon directly between the sun and the earth. Okay, so here's a diagram of a solar eclipse. And remember, your sun is always shining. Even when you can't see it, if it's on the other side of the earth at the moment, it is still shining, always. So the sun is sending out rays. But what if you're standing right there on the earth? You are not going to be able to see those rays because the moon is in the way. That is a solar eclipse. For that position on the earth right there, those rays are being blocked out. So you have a solar eclipse when you have that particular situation, as opposed to the lunar eclipse when the earth is in the middle. Okay, sunspots are concentrations on the sun's magnetic fields. And we won't go into much detail here. I'm going to see if I can find you a picture to see. So sunspots. And it really is exactly what it sounds like. They're spots on the sun. You can see here are the sunspots. Here's an up-close version of that. There's a sun without spots, if you look at the one on the right. So they're just concentrations of magnetism on the sun's magnetic field. Okay, moving on here. The next one is tide, which you've probably heard of if you've been to the ocean. A tide is a bulge or swelling in oceans caused by the moon's gravity. So the moon controls the tide, and Earth's rotation also factors into the tide. So let me see if I can find a picture of tide. You've heard of high tide and low tide. That is due to the gravitational pull. It's also laundry detergent they're showing me. Let's see if we can find. Here's a picture. It looks like maybe the tide is coming in this picture. It's creeping up further on the sand. Maybe there's high tide. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell sometimes. But the high tide is going to come further up the beach. Low tide is going to go further out into the ocean. This one kind of looks like the tide is coming in. Actually, yes, it is. It's far out, but it's moving closer. That's high tide. Low tide is when it's farther out into the ocean. And if you live at the beach and you do any kind of sailing on a boat, you definitely need to keep up with the tide cycle. It's very bad when a hurricane comes in at high tide. Okay, the last term is umbra. We did penumbra, but this is just umbra. And the umbra is the smaller shadow cast in a solar eclipse. I forgot something I need to go back and tell you. If you are on Earth in a solar eclipse and you are in the umbra, you will have a full eclipse. The sun will be fully gone. We had this happen in Tennessee just a while back, where it literally became dark in the middle of the day. It was a very big deal. It's a very rare occurrence to be in the umbra. If you are in the penumbra, and we can go back up here, The penumbra, you will only see a partial eclipse of the sun because this is a bigger area. But it is still going to show you a partial blocking of the sun. But penumbra is partial, umbra is a full eclipse if you happen to be in that umbra area. Okay, we are finished with those terms, and our next task is not writing definitions. So I will see you in the next video, and we will take a look at our solar system up close.